I know, I'm still fussing with my computer.
There you are. Hi.
Okay.
Greg Nucci.
John DeLaura, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
I haven't seen you since the Italians won the soccer world championship.
That's funny. I know you've been still living in Chester.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the last I knew as well.
that's right. You guys are doing well.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm trying.
yeah, you're doing well.
All righty. Where are you guys? What about Fred? Did Fred say he was going to try and get on board?
Fred said
John?
yes. Fred
Okay.
said yes.
All right. Give them a couple more minutes. Oh,
Hello.
Matt. Hi.
Hi.
So now we're just waiting for Fred, I think. Give him a minute or so.
Good.
Dave, is everybody here for the first application presentation?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure Fred will join us at some point. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Good evening. This is the Tuesday, March the 9th meeting of the Advisory Committee on Community Appearance. And before we begin the agenda, I'd just like to offer a refresher on the role of ACA. We are the Advisory Committee on Community Appearance and an advisory-only subcommittee to planning and zoning. Our charge is to consider and review applications for their design, looking at building style, materials, colors, landscaping, and general appropriateness for the site and for the town. Our eventual referrals and recommendations to planning and zoning are based on design decisions only. Okay, thank you. The first item on our agenda is a preliminary review, 110 and 114, excuse me, Bradley Road. A review of a proposed apartment building. I'm not sure who's presenting.
Well, I will start.
Oh, hello, how are you?
Hello, it's Jerry Davis, 297 Neck Road in Madison. I am grateful for your time tonight. We're going to take you through a second look at our project, bringing you some more details based on the discussion we had last month. I do not see Joel Bargman, our architect, logged in yet, but Bill Brown is here, our landscape designer, architect. So I think we'll start with Bill. And I'm sure Joel will be along shortly. So Bill, take it away.
I do not have the presentation. Joel has the presentation. So I'm actually at my home and I don't have access to the file that was sent.
So Jerry, we have 3 agenda items tonight. So if you want to let someone else jump ahead of you, we can we can catch up with you after they go through theirs.
That seems like the best idea since we don't have Joel on yet.
Yeah, and Joel did send an invite, and if he needs me to send it again, just let me know and I can do that.
All right, well, I'll give him a call while you move on to something else.
All right, thank you. So we'll see you later. So we'll move to the second item on our agenda, 856 Boston Post Road. Special exception permit application to construct a single-family residential cluster development and associated site improvements. I believe that John Cunningham is going to start off with the landscape presentation.
Yes, correct. And just for the record, Liz, I will recuse myself in this application from ACA.
Thank you.
Just wanted to make sure that was on the record. With me tonight is Greg Nucci, the new office on 17 Wall Street. He's always down there if anyone wants to stop in to say hello. Mike Ott is the engineer of record. He'll be on with us. And Chris McKinnon also, the attorney for the project. All right. Dave, do you want me to share or do you want to go to the overall landscape plan?
What you share, John, if you could.
Okay. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay. Just for orientation, my arrow, this is Boston Post Road out here, Birnbaum Lane that runs parallel with it, okay? Just so everyone knows, the property line on the ledges is the stone wall that sits about 60 feet back from Birnbaum Lane, all right? To begin with, we're using the same entrance and drive as our only entrance onto the property. It'll be redone, it will be widened, okay? As we lead in the new drive, we come to Unit 1, which we're calling the gatehouse, and this will have a bearing on how the new development up top works. This unit itself is about 80 feet from the stone wall, so we're about 140 feet or so in from Birnbaum Lane. It's a single family unit, which Greg will go over all the details of that later on. The majority of the area down, let's say at the bottom part of the ledges, is going to remain lawn. It is our septic system for our new units, both Unit 1, the existing house, and our 2 new structures up on top. Just from a plan standpoint, these green trees are all existing in this area, and this dark green vegetated bed is an existing ground cover bed, existing ground cover mulch shrubs or whatever, okay? So as we lead up the existing drive, which once again is going to be widened a little bit, we come up into a new area. The existing house is going to be split into 2 units, Unit 2 and Unit 3, okay? Both will be just slightly over the 22.5. That is the limit for new construction. Since this is an existing structure, I believe, and Greg can go through this, I believe the square footage of each of these units can change a little bit, okay? So this is the existing house, leaving it as is, okay? We're leaving the terrace, if any of you have been in the property, as is. We are adding 2 two-car garages at a lower elevation. These sit probably roughly 11 to 11.5 feet below the first floor elevation that's existing in the Ledges house. And they'll both service Unit 2 and Unit 3. As you lead around the driveway, there are 2 identical structures, each with 2 units in them. Everything meets setbacks and everything else. We're following all the regulations. You can see unit 4, unit 5 that roll back out onto the roadway, entrance ways on both. Each unit will have a single car garage. We move over to unit 6 and 7, the exact same as unit 4 and 5, single car garage. Very nice entrance ways, which I'll go over a larger plan after I finish with the site plan. Mailbox units will be up top for all the units. We'll probably stick a single mailbox down for unit 1. The green is all going to be proposed lawn area around the units. We have a little path that's going to lead down. This is an existing carriage house that's on the property now. This will all come down, and this will be like a gathering area for the owners here. I propose some raised garden beds. I'm on 3 or 4 multifamily housing projects in different towns. And one of the things that a lot of people like to do is get out and do some gardening. These would probably be raised units. They'd probably be 24 inches high. And each person in the different units would have a certain plot that they could use. I showed some chairs down here because it might be a gathering area. We're proposing a very small garden shed, a 10 by 10 garden shed at the back, just to store tools or whatever in. We're probably going to fence this area off also, probably with just a picket fence to try to keep maybe some of the animals from getting into the garden area. I don't know if that's going to work out. It also has a low hedge that's going to frame in the seating area, shown in dark green. And there are some existing, this is all a new evergreen hedge. These are probably going to be green giant arborvitae that's going to soften our development from the property that's behind the unit. Any questions so far on the overall site? Okay. I am going to stop sharing that one, and I'm going to go to just a unit plan, if I can. Okay. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay. This is Gatehouse 1. This just shows a preliminary plan on what the units might be. Everyone's going to have the means to have 2-car parking. So this unit has 2 garages and an additional parking space to the side. Front entranceway will probably be bluestone, probably be dry laid permeable bluestone with probably a wet laid bluestone landing. The plant material is going to be very low. So this slash line would be a ground cover bed. And on each plan, all the proposed plant materials laid back out. Each of the units will have a small rear terrace deck, whatever you'd like to call it. This will probably be wet laid bluestone also. That would then roll back down to the lawn area, back down in front. So very simple plan. One thing I failed to mention in the overall site plan, there will be a 5-foot concrete walkway going from Birnbaum Lane up to the main units that will run parallel to the driveway coming in. Any questions on any of the landscaping or any of the site things so far?
That's the gatehouse, correct?
That's the first house, correct, Liz? Yep. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, can you push the design up a little bit? I actually can't see the bottom part of the design on, yeah, there we go. So which is the side that faces Birnbaum Lane?
This side.
Okay, right.
Okay.
Okay,
This is the drive coming in, and this is the walkway going back down to it.
right.
Okay, if there are no questions, and if something comes up later on, I can jump back in. I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to Greg Nucci, and he can go back through material selection and all the rest of the questions you might have on the structures themselves. All right.
Thanks, John.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
I don't know if everyone can hear me.
Yes,
Yep.
Thank you. I'm Greg Nucci. I'm a partner at Point One Architects. I have a design presentation before you here. I need to share my screen. There we go. Hold on. Okay, here we go. So just to kind of orient you a little bit, these were some early drawings that we had done as a site analysis. You can see the existing Ledges house here, the existing driveway coming up. There's an existing circular parking court that exists right now. And as you'll see in the concept, we wanted to keep that as kind of part of the history of the Ledges building, which was actually constructed in 1909, the main part of the house. And then, as John had mentioned, further down the site, there's another existing carriage house in that little funny L-shaped space that we're removing. And then John was showing you the community amenities, raised gardens, and storage shed down there. So that's coming down and being repurposed for community space. Also, to mention, there's a piece of this Ledges building that exists right now that we're also that was built in later years, but we're also proposing rebuilding and taking it down. And you can see how the setbacks kind of clip the corner there. So we're bringing that end of the building into conformance with zoning. But just keep going here. So when we're talking about the Ledges building, this is a good view of the building on top, when you're sitting on top looking down, not from Birnbaum Lane, but once you get up into the development, the road actually comes up the side here, and then there's a circular drive in front. So this gives you a sense of the architecture and the style of the home. Most of this part of the home was original, built in 1909. It's kind of colonial revival. It's got some classic elements to it. Some kind of formalized bay windows down at the lower level. So, you know, we knew this was kind of going to be a driving factor in how we approached the design process here. So we started to kind of, in our minds, write a script about, you know, what this is and what could supporting structures look like. And we started with this carriage house kind of inspirational theme, where we've kind of got these lower 1.5 story structures. These are just images and inspiration that we took as we developed the design. And we're also going to take some elements off the main house and incorporate that into the newer buildings that we have designed as well. So again, this was kind of the beginning of our story and how we were going to approach the development. And this is just a kind of a diagram that shows you where we started. We've got this kind of existing entry drive, the parking court that kind of already existed. And then we lined the garages up around the parking court here, and the units kind of fell behind them for two reasons. One, it gives these units some privacy and autonomy, and it kind of helps formalize the parking court with these garages around the center courtyard. Again, down here we had the gatehouse structure, and then the 2 units in the Ledges building that we were dividing the very large home into 2 more manageable sized dwelling units. And then again, the shared space down at the lower level. So that was kind of the bubble diagram and the design concept that we started with. And then we actually put footprints to them and building sizes and further on. And so this is the actual front page of our zoning, the ZBA in here. So but it kind of gives you a cross section, a site section of the gatehouse down low. You're coming up the hill, your entry court here. We've got the series of garages, the carriage house garages, and then the Ledges building, and then the two subordinate structures. I keep calling them subordinate. I try to find a better term for that, but we see the Ledges building as kind of the grand dame of the estate, and then these other buildings kind of being a little less informal and not so important hierarchically in the overall scheme of the development. So this is the floor plans and building elevations of the first building, which is the gatehouse building. You can see all the garage facades that we are proposing a stone veneer. For all the garage facades, even the new garages up at the Ledges building and buildings 4, 5, 6, and 7. You can see the entrances around the garage facade, and then living space, really open kind of planned living area with kitchen, dining, living, and a covered patio off the living room on the back side that's a little more private from the entrance side. Again, we're borrowing elements from the main Ledges building. We've got some dormers that are similar. We've got some gable end dormers that are similar. We've got some kind of neoclassical elements with columns. And I can get into the details of how we're designing all the trim details as we go further down. But I'll give you the broad overview here, and that's just a little vignette. Now we're up the hill looking at the Ledges floor plans. We've got this very large home right now that we are dividing, you can see, into 2 different dwelling units. This is the dividing line that will have to be a fire rated structural, from here all the way up to the roof. There's an existing kind of open, really beautiful existing staircase that was built original to the house. So we're planning on mimicking it for the new side when we divide the unit out. And again, this kind of stone patio exists out here. These are the 2 garages. So this unit will get 2 cars and this unit will get 2 cars. And we're also, I was telling you previously about that one piece of the building that we're going to cut back and rebuild. And this is the redesign and refloor plan of that space. It becomes a family room to unit 3. And that's just the 2nd floor. And this is the attic level. And these are the existing Ledges building elevations. You can see we are making some modifications to the Ledges building itself. We are dividing the units in 2. You can see this kind of dashed line. That's where that division happens. We are going to rebuild a dormer, this particular dormer here, because it's right in the middle of our division separation, and we're going to build it right next door on the same roof. We've added some entry porticos to kind of delineate the separate entrances. Right now, there's like a very informal entrance here for the main house, and there's another entrance down here, and this was the addition. I think that was probably built in the 50s or 60s, and this is the re-elevation that we're proposing to build. So we're going to do a new portico here, entrance portico, and then another stone chimney feature at the end of the family room. But for the most part, the elevations of the Ledges building, we will rebuild, replace windows, and it will be a complete interior renovation. We'll be gutting the building, putting new insulation, new wiring, new heating is required, and But for the most part, the exterior of the ledges proper will remain the same. Let's see here. This is the existing ledges elevations as they are currently. In order to get headroom that we needed, you can see there's a little shed dormer up here that exists currently. We need to kind of continue that shed dormer across the backside of the building in order to get our staircase in for unit number 3. But again, we're just replacing existing windows, likely re-siding where needed, and let's see what I can show you here. And on this end, you can see on the right elevation, you can see the new addition with the chimney, the stone chimney to kind of match the same chimney on the other unit, although it's a little bit smaller. It doesn't have to be as large. Let's see here. So this is unit 4 and 5. So this is the next set of units here. It is a 2-family unit divided by a firewall. And again, from the gatehouse building down below, we're using that kind of gatehouse, carriage house stone facade for the garages that surround that circular parking court. And then we've got some more private semi-formal entrances on either side of the garage for so that each dwelling unit has its own individual private entrance. We are proposing stone. I'll have to say that this unit 4 and 5, because of the grading, unit 5 does have a cellar down here. So there will be some added space for unit 5 down here as a walkout. But that's the only area in the whole development where we have this scenario. So we kind of capitalized on it for that unit. And we are proposing stone veneer in other locations, especially down here. The stone chimneys on each building. You know, you can see on either end, we've got veneer stone chimneys, but very similar in concept to the gatehouse floor plan. We've got a single car garage, but a big open living area, and also has a covered patio on the backside. So that'll be nice to have, you know, in the summer and shoulder seasons as well. Let's see, building 6 and 7 are identical, except we don't have a walkout along the backside here. Again, we submitted a list of materials for the project, and I can go through that in a minute. But again, the concept here was to kind of keep these units kind of low, human scale, you know, kind of integrate them into the landscape the best we could, using some of the stone materials. And if you've ever been up to the site, it's really kind of a wonderful place. It's got a good presence and peaceful feeling. So it's really got some very mature landscaping as well. Let me just go through here. I have provided some building details. You guys can take a look at that, but we are proposing using a James Hardy cementitious siding for our clapboards. We'll also using that and an AZEK, a painted AZEK trim boards. We have crown moldings that we're showing that will be composite columns. We will be designing this towards Energy Star efficiency as well. And let me just go to the materials list just so you get a sense. Let's see if I can make this smaller. again, so for the siding materials, we're proposing, a classic clapboard, probably 5 or 6 inch in exposure. The main ledges building is, I think, a big building, and I think it's a 7-inch exposure. So we'll be close to that, but not quite. Probably 6-inch max. Our stone veneers will be a real cut stone veneer or a composite stone. We prefer to use real cut stone. They make that in about 1.25 inch thicknesses now. It's a very common siding material. We've used it on several of our projects, and it's really nice. It saves cost, time, and has a very authentic feel still. Let's see. We're proposing Marvin windows. It's the Elevate series. It used to be the Integrity series, but they are a very good thermopane window and very durable. They're and they have true divided lights that have an authentic feel to kind of complement the Ledges building. We'll be using those there as well. Some of the other doors, these are just Therma-Tru entrance door units. This is not a great picture. Well, I don't know how this one got in here, but our French doors are more traditional. They're not this modern, but the series is the same. They're still the Elevate doors. We've got some kind of classic design carriage house doors. They do come in different finishes and mahogany finishes, but that's essentially the shape and the style that we're proposing. The renderings all show kind of a wood tone on them, and I think that's what we're proposing to do. And then there's composite elements that we'll be using. There are wood products, but I think we're trying to be as maintenance free as we can, but still adhere to a very classic detailed situation and with all of our details on the building. And the roofing is basically a 30-year asphalt shingle. It's an architectural series. You probably see a lot of that in your proposals. And then I have one other thing to show you, because it's kind of interesting. We actually built the project in a program that we use called SketchUp. And you can see this is Birnbaum Lane down here. And everything is built to scale. There's a few things missing, like the sidewalk and thing, but I wanted to give you kind of a sense of what the building looks like and feels like from Birnbaum Lane, and just showing how much of the main lawn that we're keeping. We get up to the Ledges building. So we modeled all this. These are actual some of the classic details that exist on the building. And if I spin it around, these garages in front of the Ledges, actually we're proposing flat roofs on them so that they can be usable to the units 3 and 4 out here. So, they can have decks on them and planters and things like that. So they really become a usable space that faces south, your southern exposure. So there'll be a lot of nice sun coming from that direction. And just spinning it around so you get to see the backs. This is the staircase that John had mentioned that goes down to the amenity area. I don't have that modeled, but it kind of gives you the location. And this is kind of the back side of that. Sorry, the trees in the way, but back side of that one unit that has a walkout area down below. But all of our eave details are classically detailed. We've got wrapped crown and cornices and crown that rides up the rakes, and a very nice, crisp design to kind of complement the main Ledges building. So I guess I don't have much more. I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has, or I think that's really all the material that I have to present to you this evening. So.
Well, thank you for your presentation. I have one question.
Sure.
And I was just wondering how much of the development will be visible from either East Wharf or the lane that runs parallel with East Wharf on the west side.
That's a good question. From Birnbaum Lane, and this, I've only put a few of these trees in here, and John Cunningham can tell you, you can't see, you're not going to be able to see any of this development from Birnbaum Lane, except for the first carriage, the gatehouse here. Right now, there are some pictures, and I can search for them, but we do have a photograph from down here, but you really can even see, you can hardly see the Ledges building. I bet you most people drive by and don't even know it's up on the hill. So, 6 out of the 7/10 of this project really is not going to be visible from Birnbaum Lane. The only visible is this kind of cottage gatehouse at the bottom, which kind of sets the tone for the rest of the development. Excuse me.
Hey, Greg, Matt here. How you doing?
Hey, Matt.
Yeah, I've kind of been studying this in aerial, being across the street for so many years. You'd think I would have noticed, but I think this building that you've got right there on the screen is really what I think we need to be or should be looking at or concerned with.
Yep.
And I think just generally on the project, I think it's a good project, and I like the fact that the existing house is not going to be torn down, which I think is a big plus, because the property could have been bought or picked up by somebody and just built whatever monstrosity they felt like up there. I like the, if you go back to the, well, I don't know if it's easy for you, Greg, to go back to the site plan.
Yeah.
But I think that I was kind of just studying John's plan a little bit and looking at how far back this building is from the stone wall. And I think you've still left a fair amount of lawn there.
Yeah, this is all, well, you can see this is actually Mike Gott's site plan that I had up.
Okay.
We weren't into the civil engineering aspect of it, but this whole lower area will be lawn, but it is being utilized for septic fields. And
Yeah.
and so
And
that's
Liz, if you go into Google Earth, really all you see, at least on Google Earth, is a big open lawn. And I think
Right.
Greg isn't really exaggerating in that. Certainly in the summertime, you don't know that. You don't know the existing house is even there.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very high up the hill.
Yeah, there's a lot of trees. And I assume they're all going to be preserved to the greatest extent they can be. I don't
Agreed.
know.
Yes.
So maybe you could just, on your 2D elevation of that front building, could you go back to that and maybe just zoom in on those, on the elevations of that building, and then people, I just wanted to, I think that's the one thing that in my mind anyway is sort of under our purview is, view from the public.
Let's go back there.
So yeah, that's what's facing the
Birnbaum, that's what's facing Birnbaum Lane right there.
right.
That's the open porch. This is the
Yep.
living space, and that's the side of the garage.
When I first saw it, I thought, it doesn't address the street, but I think when I think about the overall property, I think I like that approach better, because it's not trying to compete with the other, classic buildings that are more to the north and up against the stone wall. It sort of fits in with that early 20th century revival era.
Right. No,
so-
we actually we thought of those kinds of elements too. And I would have thought that if we had proposed a building closer to Birnbaum Lane, then I may have changed our story a little and probably made it a little bit more, like you said,
Yeah.
kind of Main Street fronting home that's a little more formal. But again, this, in our minds, this was really the gatehouse, very kind of cottagey, garden cottage feel to it. You know, it didn't want to compete with the big Ledges building, which is kind of the most important building on the property.
Right.
So
This is one unit, this building?
it's one unit, yeah.
And are you using the same color on every building, siding wise and roof wise?
I think we were, yes. But that doesn't have to happen, but yes, you know, I think something very neutral, you know, that would complement the stone facades would be nice, you know, some earth tones. But I don't see a big range of color up there at all.
Right, but there could be subtle differences relative to the color in the stone.
Yeah, they're really showing us soft grays,
Yeah.
you know, soft warm grays.
And then the ledges itself will be white.
Or soft warm gray as well. It's actually the same color. It's actually the same color as
The same color as the adjacent buildings.
yeah, so these are all the same color.
Where's the pants?
These and these.
Is this the way? What's this?
That's the Scranton, I think it was the Scranton house
Oh,
across from.
I do like the idea of the deck extending over the top of the garage.
Over the garage.
Yes, I think that is also very reminiscent of the way old houses are often
nice.
created in England, actually.
Yeah,
And
no.
I think that's very attractive.
They're kind of big.
We had it both ways with peaks on it and with not. And actually, Faith, the current owner of the property, she says, let's make them flat roofs and make them usable. So I think that was a good choice.
Yeah.
Greg,
What
is there
about
another?
excuse
Go
me,
ahead.
I'm just wondering about the fencing that you have there.
So there's an existing balustrade on top of which you can see here.
Mhm.
That's currently existing and part of the historic fabric of that home. So we were just copying the same historic details down here for the railings.
I think that's
Yeah.
very attractive.
That looks nice.
Yeah, it does.
So I have a question about entering if you could go back one notch, so you're looking down on it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Oops. Yeah. If you live on the right side,
Yes,
you're going to walk up and it's going to look like you're going to the left side house. and
that's
then
true.
You're going to
That's
veer
true.
right. And it's going to cause some disturbance in the left house. Are people coming? Oh no, they're going next door. I don't know what the answer to that is, but
Yeah, I think we were looking at the expense of doing these kind of
yeah,
two
that's a very
large stone stairways, and we came to the conclusion that, you know, we could do it in one, and if we needed some kind of directional things for guests, we could have something in the landscape that just says, you know,
Or if the
whoever's
stairs,
looking.
if the two flights moved back toward the viewer, you might have a little more of a landing at the top where you could clearly make your decision which house you're going to.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's still a pretty good width there.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
Probably like 14, 15 feet. So
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think generally it's a very attractive design. I like the materials. I like the recognition that the house could be the main house of an estate and that these buildings make sense. They belong in that area. And I like the stone. Now you're not using wooden doors for the garages. You're using a different
No.
material, right?
Yeah, it'll be as close to wood as we can get. Just because the maintenance on a wood door, I've done them, especially on the shoreline.
Right.
They take a lot of maintenance to keep them looking good. So they're making, decent, I guess, fake wood garage doors that still look authentic. So
Because they're rather an important element, actually, of the
they
design.
are. I agree.
They look like sort of stable doors in a way.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they should be brown. I mean, an estate garage would be, the color of the trim would be what, the doors would be white, is my guess. And I just wonder if the brown is a little too really kind of modern in a funny way.
Well,
I think, we're going to have a wood door here as well.
yeah, I don't think they look modern. And I think if you get,
they jump out at you because they're the two doors are big and they're brown, and when they're brown, they pop out at you. That's just my take on it.
Greg, could you just keep rotating a little bit left so we could look at sort of the end of the building in the back a little bit? So I like the idea of a carriage house. I think the design is sort of more colonial revival though, which I think is okay. And the only thing I would ask is maybe just think more about not being concerned about its consistency with the main house, but making it feel maybe a little bit older or maybe a little more carriage housey. I think I like the carriage house term, but the building design is, and I don't know how many square feet this building is. Maybe it's kind of big, but maybe some simplification, just a general nitpick.
That's a good point, I think.
so we're looking from what aspect at this photograph?
This is the back side of the carriage house. So this is the open porch. These are actually usable, because I have these kind of low slung 1.5-story buildings. These are actual bathrooms and part of the bedrooms on the second floor.
So that's the side facing the main house.
It's the east
Now that's
elevation.
facing,
This is east.
that's Birnbaum looking up the hill. This
There.
is kind of looking
Oh, I
directly
see.
east.
It's bound. Okay.
And this is a big eating area, open eating area as well on the floor plan.
So that's the view coming from the east. If you're on Birnbaum, you'd see that side of the house.
Yes,
But you'd be driving the wrong way.
but you can't drive
Well,
that way.
Okay, the
You can
post
walk
road.
that.
That's true. Walking, wherever, however, ballooning, coming from the east side. Yeah, I think you're right about that, Matt. It's very sort of pat with those two gables there.
But
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a nice design. I just didn't know if maybe, and again, I don't know, it depends a little bit on how big that footprint is. I mean,
we're right at the 20, we're at 22, whatever the 2250 was the maximum in this zone.
Yeah.
Because it's a special zone for a small cluster development. So the floor areas they're limited to 2250. Now you can take the garage out of that. And that's what we did when we did our calculations. But anyway, this dormer back here, as long as it's functional, can take any shape or form it wants to. It doesn't have to have two gable ends. It can be, there's something in the regulations that they don't like shed dormers in your regulations. So I kind of took that, to heart, even though I think, the Ledges building itself, has shed dormers on it. And I actually like shed dormers. So, that's why
I don't think you should take the regulation to heart. I think you should do whatever you think.
Yeah, your instinct is better.
Right. You know how to do classic design. We know that. So, don't feel like you've got to kowtow to that, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I think you're right, Matt. I mean, this is our main charge, really, because this is the building that
Yeah.
everyone will see from the post road, walking, driving, whatever way. And so it's really important. Well, there are 3 shed dormers that you've got on that side.
Right.
And then
That looks
Actually-
good to me.
it does look good.
The
But
other 2 on the other side look too big somehow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would say,
That's
I don't disagree that it feels a little top heavy, with these,
There.
yeah,
with these dormers here, so.
yeah. It seems almost like a different building from this side.
Yeah, right.
The only other thing I'd ask is whenever you guys make a final stone selection, that might be nice to see, that's all. Because I think,
Right.
otherwise I don't have any other real comment. I think it's a nice project. I think it's a
It really
fantastic
is.
site. Can't miss, site. I think once you get up in there, it's all beautiful, it'll be nice.
And it's nicely presented. These SketchUp
Yeah.
drawings are great.
Very nice presentation.
Yeah. So I think definitely that because you're going to planning and zoning, right? But then you'll have to go back again because I understand the wetlands review hasn't come in. So possibly next month we might look or see an alternative to the east side of
Sure.
the building and look at the materials that you're going to use. I don't know whether we should do it this way, but when we've looked at materials before and we had Zoom meetings, we actually, the materials went to town hall and we went up there and looked at them on an individual basis. And I think this might be something that's worthwhile to do because you're also using the same materials inside. So I think that would be worthwhile.
We can certainly get some thin stone samples and drop them off. And we have other materials. We have hardy board and AZEK trim pieces. We can put a whole
Okay.
board together for you.
Yeah, that would be good.
Sure.
And then also maybe a review of those 2, the east side of that building.
Yeah, well, I'll look at an alternate elevation for
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yes, and the more I look at it, the more I think it could be changed to feel more like a carriage
love
house
to-
with
Yeah,
a
I
bit
would
of
love to
age,
do a Big shed dormer across the whole back.
No.
That might not be bad. It'd be worth looking at anyway.
I know.
Does anyone else have any more comments or questions? Nope. Should we make a motion, Dave, or should we just recommend they come back next time?
I don't think a motion is necessary unless you guys feel otherwise. I do
No,
want to say though, there is an attendee on the meeting that has their hand raised. We don't typically, Liz, have a lot of dialogue at these meetings, but you're sharing and it's up to your board.
Absolutely, I think it's fine.
Okay. April, I'm gonna allow you to talk.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Welcome, thank you. I just happened to sign in really fast, and I think that the schematic that you're looking at does not represent the actual area because you've left out the adjoining pieces of property on both sides and in the back. And that looks like a golf course compared to reality. And I think that you're doing a disservice to the town and that property if you don't consider that fact.
So you're talking about the borders of the property and how it relates to properties on either side.
That's correct. You make the house in the front look like it's got a large setback, and it would not have that large setback. And the general aspects are it really looks open and spacious and lovely. And that is not what you're going to have back there. That's not that big a piece of property. And that's a deceiving view.
I'm sorry, I should have asked you at the beginning. Could you just state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. April Allen, and I'm on 23 East Wharf Road.
Thank you.
Well, I think, and the architect can certainly address this, how the proportions look when you present things, in this way. And
April, all I can tell you is that we use the actual building survey. It's called an A2 survey, and we use the site drawings provided by Mike Ott, the civil engineer, when we developed the buildings and the site. So the site is accurate with regards to distances in this model. So there's no real, I guess you use the word deception. There's no deception planned here. These buildings are, if you look at the site plan by Mike Ott, this was the site plan that we used to develop our renderings, and we located the buildings exactly where they are on the site plan. And so all these distances to Birnbaum and Boston Post Road are accurate distances. So I guess that's all I can really say about that. There is some interesting ledges history. So this is a map that was done by somebody in 1881, and this is actually the ledges property. This is East Wharf Drive, and then this is the Post Road here. So there was at one time a big schoolhouse or a town hall down on that front lawn area back in 1881, and there's verbiage of it as to it burning down. A schoolhouse did burn down, so I think it's probably safe to say that that's either a civic building of some kind that was there. So, but it's interesting. Somebody had this map drawn. It's kind of crude, but it's an interesting part of history of the site.
Interesting. Okay, well, thank you. April, do you have any other comments?
No, Liz, let me, there are two other people with their hand raised, but before we continue to entertain comment, I just I'd like the board to have a little dialogue about that. So, this isn't a public hearing. It's not been announced as one. The Planning and Zoning Commission is holding the public hearing, and actually so did the Inland Wetlands Agency on this application. So, to the extent that you guys, you're driving the process, but the Planning and Zoning Commission is expecting a referral from ACCA. We have two other agenda items tonight. John and I have ZBA at 7. So, if you feel it's appropriate to continue to entertain public comment, that's up to you guys, but that should be a discussion, I think, before you continue. If everybody agrees that they want to continue to allow the public to ask questions or to give input, I suggest you discuss that and then decide.
Dave, could you clarify our charge for folks? I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I think
I did read it out at the very beginning, actually.
Yeah, but I mean, what we're supposed to do, because I think it sounded like perhaps April's comments were, she may be in a butter or somebody adjacent to the east, which are very important opinions. And maybe if we were to see a site plan, we'd get she could give us more detail what she's concerned about seeing. That is, again, if the board wants to continue with this discussion.
Well, we are going to have the opportunity next month to see a new idea for the carriage house. So maybe at that time, we could also see a little bit more of how it sits in its surroundings relative to the buildings that are around that property. So I think And as Dave said, this, we are involved in looking at the design and only the design. And at the planning and zoning meeting, there will be lots of opportunity to talk about how the rest of the project will take place. So, and because we do have a long evening of an agenda, I want to thank April for her comments, but I think we should move on with the rest of the agenda.
And I do encourage the folks that are interested in speaking to attend next week's Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, because that is a public hearing, and we, not only welcome, but encourage them to participate. And I think most of the folks on here are aware of that public hearing and know how to get on, so.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
John, are you coming back on board now? Yeah. So should we go back to the first item on the agenda? Is everyone here for that?
Yes, we're all here now.
Okay, so it's now actually our second item on the agenda. Preliminary review for 110, 114 Bradley Road, review of a proposed apartment building.
Great, thanks for your patience. And I forgot to mention just very briefly before we start that our project did pass through the inland wetlands process, and we were approved on March 1st for that. We're in the process of getting our health department engineering approved, and we're expecting to see you again next month for a formal hearing, and then planning and zoning after that. But today we're going to, as I said before, kind of review some of the things that we showed you last month and more detail on landscaping. And so Joel is going to take it from here. Joel Barton.
Thank you. Apologies for the mix-up on the timing. What I showed you last time was the location of the site, and we talked about one of the requirements was to have an elevation of the street for some distance on either side of the site, which is here on Bradley Road. It's a little confusing because that's actually the building across the street from Bradley Road, the white dot. But I thought I could just do is quickly orient folks to the site again. This is sort of the middle portion of the site. The hearth is on the right-hand side. As you go across the street, this is the view directly to your back when you're facing the site. As you go west down Bradley Road, this is the property boundary. There's a small retaining wall, change of grade there. That actually happens to be the new entry driveway. And then, as you probably well know, that's the hearth as you go, and there's your 300-foot line from the end of the site is the end of the hearth. And across from that assisted living project is this particular building. So that the context is rather mixed on the west side. If I go back to the center of the site, again, these buildings would be coming down on the particular site. Have the laundromat building, dry cleaning on the eastern boundary of the site. And then as you turn a little bit further, there's one more single family house in the open parking lot landscape or wild landscape area. So this is the view just a little bit past the east boundary of the site. The 300 foot is approximately that edge. So again, the context is quite different than on the two sides of the property. I'm not going to dwell on this, but it's an important drawing. And I think in the interest of time, I know you have an agenda and want to get out of there quickly. 7. I'm going to let Bill talk about the landscaping, but this drawing is now as explained, we are advancing the project through the different permits. This is the septic plan, and there are 4 septic fields around the building. And those septic fields plus the overflow and emergency fields that are here in the courtyard of the building sort of preclude areas that we can plant on. In addition, there's a electrical line coming in the building on the eastern boundary, and you can see on the western side, I'm sorry, on the eastern side, the proliferation of utility lines, which again, the bylaws in Madison are such that those don't allow planting. Because this is sort of the first time you're seeing a more developed landscape scheme, and we'll be back in a month. I thought we could start with Bill giving you an overview of the landscape plan. And we did submit a tree booklet, which we can go through, or we can discuss how you'd like to go through the landscape. But Bill, do you want to explain the
Sure.
scheme?
Sure. This is very similar to what was presented at the last meeting with some modifications to the east and west side, as Joel had stated. And we also developed the landscape of the courtyard area for this rendering, which was not shown at the last meeting. So along Bradley Road, we have street trees. We're proposing to use elm trees along that edge. Those will get to be larger. There's a site sign that's to the entrance to the project. There are 3 more columnar, they're Carpic maple trees along this edge so that they don't grow into the building. As we go around the building, there's a couple of shade trees sort of on the corner of the building, and then 3 flowering trees, Cercis canadensis too, and then there's also a dogwood tree there as well. Underneath one of the trees, we're actually showing a bench to the left of the entrance. So that's actually where the mailboxes are.
Oh, yeah.
But to the left of the entrance, there is a bench over there, and some shade trees in the back as well. The courtyard area, you can see where the path comes out of the building at the center. That's where the fitness area is. There's 4 columnar cherry trees that sort of line that walk with a couple of bollard lights that lead you to an area where there's 2 benches and planting. And then the sort of brighter green that's shown is areas of shrub, ground cover, and perennial plantings that are pretty much around the base of the building. But the next slide is a detailed planting plan of the actual plants that we're proposing. And I think that what's important is we've looked at these plants in terms of sun and shade, because we do have shady sides of the building where there's not a lot of sun exposure. We're using upright boxwoods at the patio areas so that we can provide some privacy for those patio areas. And, you know, a mix of shrubs, both evergreen and deciduous, grasses and perennials, but they're arranged in a way that, you know, they're not ones and twos of shrubs here and there, but they're multiples in beds so that the landscape is fairly strong as it's presented. So each of those sort of rectangles and boxes signifies you know, a bed of materials where you'll have anywhere between, you know, 4 and 6 and 10 and sometimes 14 of the same types of plants in those bed areas. So there's a lot of boxes, but there's, you know, they're arranged in larger groups, and they're chosen for, you know, whether they're deciduous or evergreen or provide color during different parts of the seasons. So the next plan, this is very difficult to read. These plans are difficult to read, even if they're in their largest sort of native form. But this is a lighting photometrics plan. And if you go to the next sheet, it shows the lights that we're proposing for the site. So we have pole lights, the light fixture itself, starts at about 16 feet tall. The pole is a little bit taller than that. These can be shielded so that we don't have a lot of light spillage sort of on the back and over the property line. These are shown along the entrance into the project and in the parking lot areas. And then we do have two, and they're shown on the plan. Joel's showing where the lights are. Those are the pole lights. And then we have bollard lights. We have two bollard lights that are shown in the little courtyard area. So if someone, is out there sort of at dusk and wants to come back in the building, it will give them some light in order to get back into the building.
Bill, we submitted the plant book separately, so maybe we can go. How would the board like to handle the plants? Should we leave that as an administrative submission, or?
John, do you have any questions about the plantings? John Cunningham. Can't hear you, John.
Okay, well, we can come back to the plants at the end. I do have a copy of that to show if you'd like. I thought it was a good maybe start up to just bring the plan of the building into context with what Bill showed. The entry of the building is actually facing the access road so that you see it as you come into the property. The building does have a see-through. So as you come in the front door and are in the lobby, the point of the architecture is to see through and then see through to this courtyard and have a very interconnected front to back experience of the architecture and the landscape architecture. And Bill's tying that together very simply with the bollard lights coming out of the fitness room. Fitness room is a very small area. It's only for the residents of this building, not a public kind of space. It's really just the amenity of the particular building. The building is a 3-story property, and the point of this last slide is this is the 3rd floor, and you can see how the plan sort of goes from filling out the envelope on level 2 to pulling back the corners on level 3, which is something I spoke about but didn't show at the last presentation. And there's a combination of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments in this project. There's a small roof deck well off of the front of the building. So the edge of the roof deck on this side of the building is 42 feet from the edge of the building. And then on lower level, we have a 10-foot setback from the railing to the edge of the building. There is an elevator that takes you up. There's walk pads, and then the mechanical equipment for the building is oriented in the middle where that dash line is. Again, it would not, those units are 2 feet tall, so they're not anticipated to be seen from the streets. I showed this elevation at the last meeting. What we have done is we've sort of changed coloration. Folks felt we had a redwood base, and we've throttled that back to white cedar. So still is a high density fiberboard made by Nichia. It's actually quite nice looking, and it's a little bit lighter than what you saw before. This is the main entry, the fitness room, and then that's the garden that Bill explained. So, and the 4 street trees coming along Bradley Road. The street entry, the rear entry of the building, this is the door into the building. It's very small, but 2-story lobby. So there's a little bit of a hierarchy in the window elevation, albeit on the back side of the building. The patios have slightly bigger doors to give a makeup of the building. And what you can see here is an enlargement. I hope you can see it. We have a ground face block base because our experience is the cement fiber or fiber cement panels, even the high density, aren't great if they get snow on them for extended periods. And didn't have a lot of snow this winter, but we did have snow on the ground continuously for a couple, 3 weeks. And that's when the base is really helpful on the building. And it's great for when the lawnmower comes up. And we have a 18-inch base that's in large part obscured by some of the landscaping, but it's designed to sort of anchor the building and provide a good durable base. On top of that, we have, as I mentioned, the high fiber nichia in the cedar color. And then we have high density fiber panels above in lap siding in a gray, light gray, and then a gray with a little texture on it. This top one, in these sort of panels. So the idea is to create some different colors, use the colors to accentuate where the building steps, which is the image on the right, and then create a little bit of hierarchy in the windows. So sometimes we have a window that's ganged by a colored panel or a balcony that creates a sort of semi two-story opening, so you don't have just punched windows. Similar side of the building, on the side of the building, the front gray projects out, whereas here the gray, lighter gray projects out. So it depends on the side where the projection is. Similar materials. Balcony and the railings are cable rails with a black metal railing and vertical posts. More. Now you can see a detail of the window. It's a 4/4, either single or double hung window, and the patio doors are style doors that have open glass. So a little bit of contrast between the door and the window in terms of the grading of the subdivided lights. If you like, the package that we sent you had links that you're able to click on. We're using Allura as our lap siding, which is a nice high quality of the fiber cement products, and then nichia at the grade where it's more susceptible to lawn care and pedestrian access. This is a section, and it may be hard to see on this. I'm happy to send you hints if that helps, but it shows sort of the detailing relative to the facade system. We have a very thin layer of exterior insulation on the building. We don't want to go too thick because we're trying to keep the siding able to nail into the sheeting. So we're really doing 1.5 inches of continuous exterior insulation. Then we continue to have batt insulation on the inside. But this is showing is the window is relatively close to the facade, and the different details are shown that there's a slight projection as you get down the base, a little bit of a change of plane there. These are just other details for where here you can see the black projects out against the gray. Here it's the flat wall with the recess at the ground floor. So the building is pretty simple, but we're taking advantage of the fact that the stud construction can cantilever between 18 and 24 inches relatively easily, and use that to create some depth and interest to the building. And here just intended to show the railings and the different type of panel construction on the building.
Mhm.
What this shows is I talked about the window being a 2/2. Don't have an exact window. These are either Pella metal clad wood So it would be black metal on the outside, and then the wood on the inside could be any color that Jerry wishes. It could be the industrial, or it could be white. Or Pella also makes a very high quality vinyl window, and I hope you don't scrunch when you hear the term vinyl, because the new vinyl window has a very high R value. The frame is completely insulated. So from an energy perspective, this happens to be the vinyl window, but the profiles are the same as the metal clad. And the window section that I'm showing on the right is the window section on the left between the glass and the frame. What I'm not showing is that jam extender that would come out here and close off the window from the fiber cement panel. So it's a little jam extender going around the windows, close off that continuous exterior insulation, and allow that window to be very crisp. We like the very thin frame, and again, the profile that's shown would be equivalent. I'm happy to get a window sample down to you if that helps. And this is a picture of that window in place with the 2/2, and the screens are required to a certain height on the building. It shows the look, appearance of that particular window. And then here you see now back in the full context, those wall sections that I was showing. Now we're using the slight 2-foot projections to create this variation. It's a little bit asymmetrical on the sides and symmetrical on the street. So for what it's worth, I like that idea that it presents itself to the street in a very regular way, and then as you get back to the site, it begins to dissolve and be a little bit more carefree. And here you see the street view with the hearth, the base. We didn't have all the bills planting in. We do have bills planting in the courtyard, street trees, and as you mentioned last time, I thought it was a good comment. We should incorporate trees that are on the patio as part of the base building, and that will be called for in the drawings. And then this is the view to the left, showing the 300-foot end at the hearth, and our view ending at the property line, and again the sort of street view, and the 2-story, 3-story step up in the courtyard. That's our presentation. I hope we didn't go too long. I'm happy to go back. Any other questions? And we're happy to go back to the plant list, that book if you like. But
how many feet of frontage is this building? Is the apartment building?
The frontage is approximately. Let me go to that plan. Hold on one second. I don't think he has an exact dimension on the civil engineering plan, but the front is 4 times 35, so it's 140 feet. These are 35, this is 35, 35, and then another 35 feet.
So it'll be considerably less than the hearth's frontage then?
That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted some sense of the proportion. The other question I have for you is the apartments on the first floor. There are lots of windows. Do you have any thought about using a different type of glass so the people in those apartments wouldn't have to keep their blinds down all the time because they're right there, for everyone to see?
Yeah. So it's a good question, and what Bill has done is we placed the patios with planting to try to shield the living spaces. And what we do in those apartments is the blinds are actually on the bottom of the window and you lift up. So
Top down,
what-
bottom up, okay.
And what's nice is that you can have the window go up to 5'6" and no one can see in, but you get a lot of light coming into the apartment
Okay,
that way.
that's a good way to take care of that. Yeah, okay. Anyone else have questions?
Yes, just a couple of questions about the building facade. I mean, what are your floor to floor heights on this?
The floor to floor is nominally 11 feet, gives us a 9-foot ceiling in the apartments.
So your parapet is probably 36, 37?
35, 36. I mean, when we're done, it'll really be 10'8" floor to floor, and then the top floor has an additional 12 inches for tapered insulation. So it's approximately 36, you know, I'm sorry, 35, 34 and a half.
How far back is the building from the sidewalk?
The front of the building, I'll put these dimensions on so we have it next time, and they're great. It is 35 feet.
So all right, so the
Center part.
those two wings on either end of the building are about 35 feet from the property line of the sidewalk.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
Just a question, and I see Fred has just joined us. And I remember last time he was wondering about space outside where people can congregate or sit. And I see you've got 2 benches in the front and 1 bench in the back. I think it might be a nice idea to have more than 1 in the back, possibly. Had you thought of that? So, you know, that there could be some way to utilize that outdoor space and, you know, rest and read or whatever people want to do. But with just 3 benches and 3 floors, I think maybe you could accommodate people being outside in a, you know, in another way, or just putting more benches.
Well, I'll let Bill address that. And I just want to remind folks that we do have the roof deck as well. So that's another seating area on the roof. Bill, do you want to comment? I don't know that benches are a big problem for us.
You're asking the landscape?
Yeah, Bill, are you there? Or are you?
I don't think it's there.
Okay.
Sorry, I was
Okay,
muted.
well, it's just a thought.
No, it'll be simple for us to add some benches to the south side.
Right. I think it looks.
You'll also have all the benches and seating on the patio. So there's, you know, a third of the units have patios at grade. And then every unit either has a balcony or a terrace on the top. So they do have outdoor private spaces, and then, you know, we'll have the roof deck and then these outdoor space at grade. Yeah.
Right.
Actually, I just wanted to mention there actually are 2 benches on the south side.
There are 2.
There's
Okay.
a bit hard to see, but as Bill said before, there's 1 near the entrance, and then there's 2.
Okay.
Actually, the one on the right-hand side, that's where the mailboxes are.
Oh, be a good place for
Well,
bench.
I'm sure you can find another spot.
Sure.
But a third of the units with terraces is actually, that's really quite good. I was a little concerned about the sharp vertical and horizontal lines, but looking at it again and looking at the greenery and the fact that you are going to plant on the terraces, I think, you know, that is a very good addition. You know, the trees and the shrubs and the living things help to soften the lines of the building. So Matt and Peter, do you have any comments?
Well, not on the site plan. I think the site plan is doing its job. I don't know if there's enough some more landscaping in the budget to make that parking lot from the building seem less like a desert. From overhead, it looks like a lot of asphalt or a lot of parking material. And I'm not sure if there's some way to soften that.
Bill, could I mention something?
Yes.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, John.
Okay. So I don't know what happened, but Peter brought up a good point. The sidewalk that's behind the building, maybe there could be, I like your use of the fastigiate boxwood to frame everything back in.
Yeah.
Good choice. And Liz, the plant material, we don't have to go through the whole packet. All the plant material that Bill has suggested is all fine. But maybe there's a small hedge that runs along that parking lot that might soften the cars from the units.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you could see that you could still have this central opening and maybe leave some different spaces for it, but you could. And then those rear units are looking out onto a green softening agent. It might just get as high as maybe the hood of the car. I don't think you'd want
Yes.
something very tall out there.
Sure. That's a good idea. I think we could locate it off the sidewalk so that we can have some room for snow.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So the only,
Overall, I think, overall, Liz, I think the landscape plan is fine. One question for Bill. I like red maple. I use it all the time on my plans. Any idea of, I see you've changed variety of red maple. I think 2 or 3, I've looked through the plant list fairly quickly, 2 or 3 different varieties of red maple. It's not really that big a deal. It's all Acer rubrum. The sugar maple is the only tree that stood out to me that you might want to consider maybe changing.
Okay.
But I'll leave it to you guys. A lot of
Okay.
problems with sugar maple.
Okay.
It's going to be a site that's going to be mostly on gravel. I have found that sugar maple do not do well in basically an urban setting where there's not a lot of organic material. Might just be something to look at. Okay.
Okay.
The only sort of comment I had was, should we be seeing a street elevation that just shows the adjacent buildings? I just want to make sure we do our job and get a look at that. I think it's something that's supposed to be presented. It's a large building, and I think the building design has done everything it could to diminish its impact on the street because of those narrow forms, which are actually narrower than they appear in the footprint on the site plan. I just think it might be something that would be helpful for us to just sort of see this, because it is tall, and I don't have any real big concerns about it mass-wise, but we might just want to, see that if you're going to come back another time.
Okay.
and also the materials. Once again, we can look at the actual materials as we've done before at the town hall, because they look attractive, but there's nothing like actually seeing them. And you've got a bit of sort of subtlety there, which you can't really see on the screen. So when you're ready to put together materials, I think we'd like to see those in real life, so to speak.
Well, we have them all in the office ready to do that. So
Okay. All
not
right.
a problem.
Good. Anybody else?
Yes.
Hi, Fred.
I see some kind of a driveway along the east side of the building, and it doesn't go anywhere except to a sidewalk. What's the purpose of that?
Driveway there's a little turnaround for the UPS truck or a fire truck or the garbage truck for the trash pickup that's in this corner. They can turn around and get out, and the fire truck can come in and park here, and they have ladder access then to the building. So this little driveway is
Well, I'm talking
utilitarian.
about this on the east side.
So you're talking about the driveway that's to the right. There's,
To the left.
oh,
The
to
left is the west side.
It goes out.
North
to
is
the
up.
sidewalk.
The north is up.
It goes out to Bradley Road. We're looking from sort of behind the building, and that's the driveway, the access driveway.
Oh, is that? I thought that was just the sidewalk.
No, that's the access. Yeah, to Bradley Road.
All right.
Okay. Anyone else comments? I think it's a very fine plan myself.
Yeah,
But we'd
I
like
think
to
it's,
see
I think it's
the details.
a good addition to the town.
Yeah. So this is a preliminary review. At what point would you be ready to show us the materials?
Well, I would do that with the street elevation, and we can have that done, next week. As soon as, I'm not sure when your next meeting is.
We have one every month. So
Okay.
for April, what, Dave, what's the date for the
Yeah,
next meeting?
let me look at the actual date.
Isn't it?
But we'll make sure you guys have access to that stuff in advance of our next meeting. And then,
Yeah.
but they'll be on track to go to planning and zoning in April as well.
Okay, that's
believe
good.
April 13th, I believe.
Second Tuesday.
Yeah,
Usually,
so it's the 13th of April. So we got plenty of time for them to
Okay.
get it done, and we'll get it available for you guys.
All right, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're not doing a motion, it's just a preliminary review, but so we'll see you in a month and looking forward to seeing the materials. It's a very nice presentation. Thank you.
No, it's very nice.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Third and final item on our agenda, 40 and 48 Wall Street. Site plan review application to permit a 30 by 60 foot framed tent to be utilized for a standalone seasonal pop-up restaurant. Additionally, permission is being sought to hold a total of 6 outdoor movies and live music events 1 night per week on Green Hill Road. I'm not sure of that, how that relates to us, but anyway, the presenter will be Bill Plunkett, I assume?
Can you see me?
No.
No, which is
That's
nice.
a good thing. That sounded better.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a nice little
Give me one
blobby
second.
picture.
I've
of
never
it.
done this before, so deal with me. Bear with me.
I saw you when you first came on, Bill, a couple of hours
Smoking a
ago.
cigar.
Liz, you made a comment. Yeah, so this agenda item is in front of you guys, just really for the tent. I just wanted to make sure that ACA had an opportunity to comment on it if they chose to. Obviously, you've probably seen it from it being used last season. So the approval process for last season was kind of emergency authorization due to all the COVID restrictions. And Bill is asking for basically to continue use of that tent beyond any kind of COVID limitations. And so that's why it's going in front of planning and zoning for permission. And I just thought we'd throw it in front of ACA for your input as well.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
We-
hello,
Okay, good. Hi.
hi. Go
So
ahead.
essentially, we want to continue the use we had last year, like Dave said, on a more permanent basis, be like May 15th to like October 30th or October 15th, something like that. It's essentially, it's the exact same tent as we had last year. It's 30 by 60. We're going to be adding some parking to the front, sort of not permanent parking, like processed. I don't know. Do you have the plan in front of you?
No,
Oh, okay.
I know we don't have a picture of the tent either.
Yeah, it's a white frame tent. I thought you guys had some of the materials there.
No.
So let me see if I can pull up what you submitted. But go
Liz,
ahead.
did you see the tent that Bill had up last summer?
I didn't see it.
Oh, okay. It's the same tent from last summer.
Yeah,
It's just a classic.
it's a frame tent as opposed to a pole tent. Pole tent has like a circus tent.
Right.
This is a frame tent that isn't as tall. It isn't anywhere near as tall. And it's going to sit in front of. I'm going to show you this real quick. Can you see that? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here's Moxie.
Right.
Here's 40 Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
Here's there's 40 Wall Street and then 48A Wall Street. It's like a strip of land right here. This house belongs to 48A. There's an existing garage here. This parking already exists. So we're going to be adding for the dining patrons here, we're going to be adding parking here, which Mike Ott is helping me with.
Okay.
And the tent will be here. You already have some low voltage lights in place. We're going to be adding, I think, like maybe John can help, but adding 3 bollards, like line voltage bollards here. These are low voltage. There's some existing lighting along this stone wall that will help, guide people in here. There is some existing lighting on this building. And there's 1 light on the side of 40 Wall Street. So this driveway is already here. The stone wall is already here. These trees I'm pointing out are already here. I had to put those in for the approvals for Moxie. This parking lot, all this is already here. This is here, that's here. The tent is the new item. That would, like I said, stand somewhere late spring to early fall.
What about that piece of land right at the sidewalk where the something circular is drawn on it? What's going to be there?
Here?
Yes.
That's an existing white oak. It's huge.
Okay, with a lawn underneath it?
Yeah, it's all lawned already. All I'm doing, I mean, these spots here, I'd put processed. It looked like a processed driveway, not paved. It won't be macadam. None of this is blacktop. Neither is this, this entry or this entry. So this is meant to be sort of a soft, I don't think soft is the right word, but it's not meant to be like a permanent blacktop, impervious blacktop. This will be lawn separating the two. This lawn already exists. All this lawn already exists.
So is it like an extension of Moxie? Is that what it's going to be?
Yeah, kind of. Yes and no. They're going to be 2 separate entities, but we'll be doing some of the cooking, a lot of the preparation inside of Moxie, and then bringing some of it, not all of it, out that night. We'll have hot boxes. We'll have like these 2 things are like, what do I want to say, barbecue pits or barbecue grills, whatever we call it. We'll be using Moxie. There's a staircase here back and forth. However, it's meant to be, it's a standalone kind of thing. A pop-up thing, as they call them. I never understand that term, but that's what the kids call them.
And is it open? You can see into it from the street?
Yes. Well, at this point, you can't. It would be, even if we were to close it, which we can't do, it would be clear curtains.
Mm-hmm.
There's a perimeter hanging party light that goes around it. It's a low voltage. No, I take it back. It's a line voltage LED light. They're at 2-foot centers, not 16 or 10. So the light is not as great. We had that up again last year. There's very little light pollution per se. And the rest of the lights were inside the tent that didn't hang past the eave of this of the tent.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of furniture are you using inside there?
Picnic tables.
Picnic tables.
I have a lot of picnic tables. I bought them last year for COVID, and I painted them white. And that's it. There might be a couple of no, there won't be. There'll be a picnic tables, and we're going to have like a service bar there, which I've already made. It's sort of rustic looking thing that you won't see anyway, quite frankly. It'll be back in here somewhere.
Okay. Well, questions from anybody?
I don't have any questions, just a couple of comments. I think the tent sits way back off the road, and it sort of looks like somebody's having a wedding, which I think is perfectly fine. And I think you've got that lawn there, which I know a lot of it'll become some gravel parking, but the oak tree completely obscures what's happening back there. I mean, I don't think I noticed that until the end of the summer, and I have no objection to this going, on a quote unquote semi-permanent basis or what have you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with Matt. I think it's a good thing for the town to have. Bill ran it last year. There were no problems with it. So I'm all in favor for it.
Okay, sounds good.
There was some concern there was going to be like hooligans and whatnot up and down the street going there. And we had absolutely no problems whatsoever. The police never came. There were no noise issues. It was received and handled very well, I think.
Bill, is the tent in the same location exactly as it was last year?
No, it's back 25 or 30 feet. It's even back further.
And the food is coming from the Moxie kitchen?
Some of it, not all of it. We'll be grilling some of it, but like we're going to be doing corn, street corn. We'll be doing that inside.
It'll be a long walk to the kitchen.
Yeah, but that's what they get paid for.
Are you giving it a name, Bill?
I think I'm going to call it the pigsty or pig pen. I haven't decided yet.
Okay, I think it's I think that's fine. Are we making any motion here, David?
Well, yeah, I'd like you to, because this is a formal application at this point, so.
Okay, well, I'd be happy to make a motion that we approve the application for the 30 by 60 foot frame tent on the property next to Moxie. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Bill.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Yep, you too.
Take care.
Bye.
Good night. All right, one more item. The minutes, has everybody read the minutes?
No.
Minutes from February the 9th?
Sure. Yeah.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So
Make a
moved.
motion to approve the minutes. Or I'll second, either or.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting
Okay.
unless anyone has anything else, any other comment before we go. We're good?
Yeah.
Good.
Seconder,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Thanks.